يحصي نعماه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. واللعنة الدائمة الباقية لأعدائهم ومنكر فضائلهم وغاصب حقوقهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تنصروا الله ينصركم ويثبت أقدامكم. صلوات عليكم. I have recited ayat number 7 of Surah number 47, Surah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, if you help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in tansurullah yunsirukum. If you help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will help you. Of course, He doesn't need our help. When He talks about help, He's talking about helping His message and His cause and the faith that He sent. And that's a way that Allah says, this is one way that I will give you even more. If you help me in maintaining the message that I have sent in your own life, in your own practice, in sharing it with others, then Allah also says, I will help you. Not only that, وَيُثَبِّتُ أَقْدَامَكُمْ. He will keep your feet and your steps firm in the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim. I've recited this ayat as an example of the personality whom we have gathered to remember this evening. Because in Shia Islam, we do not only honor the outstanding men in our history and faith, we also remember and honor outstanding women who played important role in the survival of Islam and Shiaism. We always remember Umm Khadija, Sayyida Fatima, Bibi Zainab, Bibi Umme Kulthum, when we talk about Hazrat Ma'asum, and of course, keeping with that Shia tradition, we've gathered this evening to commemorate the wafat of Bibi Zainab bint Ali wa Fatima salawatullah alayha. For Shias, the story of Karbala without Zainab is an incomplete story. But tonight I would like to talk about slightly different, perspective of her life with her family. Because when we look at history, we have to realize the Ahlul-Bayt after the Prophet were on the opposition side, because they did not agree with the basis of the rulers of the time and even the policies which were many times un-Islamic. And so they were always on the opposition side. And this has basically become an issue where, they have been targeted by the media of those days. And those days, when we talk about media, we are talking about the narrators, the muhaddiseen and the historians, the mu'arrikheen. They were the ones who would basically, write down things, circulate events in the society. And so the media of those days were the muhaddiseen and the mu'arrikheen. The narrators of hadith as well as the narrators of the events and history. And when we look at them, most of them were actually influenced by the rulers of the time. And so when it came to the early history of Islam, you have to keep in mind that they had an agenda. You know, the media, the reporter or the media is not just there as a middleman bringing in the message from one area and giving to the recipient. No, they bring it with their own, you know, spices in it, adding it, exaggeration, deletion, ignoring certain parts of the events, highlighting other parts of the event, depending on how, you know, they are aligned to the group on one side or the other. And so when it comes to, for example, our imams, the historians and the muhaddiseen, they tried to degrade the status of Amir al-Mu'mineen. They questioned the character of Imam Hassan. They even tried to ascribe worldly motives to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. The muhaddiseen and the mu'arrikheen did not only stop at Ali and Hassan and Hussein. When you study history, you see that they even tried to link the ladies of the Ahlul-Bayt into their own propaganda machine. Because they realized that, okay, you know, when we look at the Ahlul-Bayt on one side and the Khulafa on the other side, they are not on the same page. They are opposites. In order to reconcile the differences, they came up with this, you know, plan of inventing events which would seemingly, you know, show that there was no dispute between Ahlul Bayt and the Khulafa. And this is where they go to the extent of using the daughters of Ali and Fatima. When we talk about Bibi Zainab and Bibi Umme Kulthum. And in tonight's majlis, you know, I will just talk about two events in relation to the sister of Zainab. We've talked about Bibi Zainab many times, and there are two events I would like to share with you about the sister of Zainab, Umme Kulthum. One is actually in relation to Zainab herself. There is a part of the, you know, fabricated stories that we have in history is about the so-called aqd, marriage of Umm Kulthum to Umar ibn Khattab, the second Khalifa. And when we look at this, you realize, you know, Umm Kulthum, of course, she was born in the 60th year of the Hijrah. She lived a long life. She was there in Karbala. She was there in Kufa and Sham. And when the Ahlul Bayt came back from Sham, they reached to Medina. About 4 months and few days after that, Umm Kulthum passes away in Medina. But when we look at her early, you know, the narrations that we have, these historians and muhaddiseen, in order to show that there was no dispute between Ali and Umar, between the Imams of Ahlul Bayt and the Khulafa, they came up with this issue of, you know, that Ali gave his youngest daughter from Fatima by the name of Umm Kulthum in, you know, marriage to Umar ibn Khattab. Now when you look at this, this actually was manipulated in such a way, and this propaganda was widespread to the extent that this wave of deception became so wide that even if you look at the Shia literature of Hadith, you will see some of the narrations, you know, in a way affirming this. Although they will, you know, try to justify it, that this was done by force, Ali didn't have a choice. Just think about it. I mean, sometimes this propaganda becomes so widespread that it finds space in Shia literature itself. And so let us look at the, you know, Sunni narrations on this issue of the so-called marriage of Bibi Umm Kulthum to the second Khalifa Umar ibn Khattab. Salawat min akbar. First of all, in the Sunni narrations, there's a problem with there are so many different versions of this story. so many contradictions in the story itself. And the story is not same. For example, on one, we see that Umar was insisting on this matter, and when he didn't get positive response from Ali, he even went to the extent of threatening Ali. Then we see, for example, narrations saying that when Umar proposed to Ali that I want to, marry your daughter Umme Kulthum, Ali declined. Then even in the narrations where he is declining and refusing, there are 2-3 different excuses given in different narrations. In one it says, he said, well, she is still minor. She is not the age of, marriage. In another, Ali says, no, she is already promised to her cousin. In our language, we will say she's already engaged to her cousin. And a third one, he says, well, I can't decide on this. I will have to sit down with my family, consult the family, and then make the decision. Another report says that when the proposal comes, and this is the worst of it. Sometimes when those who sit down to fabricate stories, they don't realize that they're actually hitting on their own feet. It says that when the proposal came, Ali decided to send his daughter to Umar so that he may see her. Na'udhu billah, and I'm just narrating this so that we know how history plays its own role in what is known as web of deception and propaganda. In one, we are told that Ali, na'udhu billah, asked the women of the family to prepare Umme Kulthum and then gave her something, and she says, go to the masjid, the Khalifa is sitting there, and give this to him. And Umme Kulthum, now, dressed up, goes there to give that amanat to the Khalifa, and Khalifa, na'udhu billah, we are told, in that narration, actually tries to remove the lower part of the skirt to look at the ankle of the girl. Those who sit down and fabricate this, they do not realize that it is creating a very negative image, not of only Amirul Mu'mineen, whom we believe would never ever do such thing, but even of the Khalifa himself. What kind of image you are presenting to the world of your leader? This goes totally against the values, morality, and akhlaq of Rasulullah and the deen that he has brought. Salawat. Then they go on to say, well, the aqd was done, but the rukhsati was not done. And before the rukhsati was done, Umar died. In another version, we are told, no, she was married and she had children with him. Again, there is dispute and contradictions in the narration. In one it says she had one child from him by the name of Zaid. Another it says there were 2 children, Zaid and Ruqayya. And third one says, no, there were 2 children by the name of Zaid and Fatima. And another narration says that Umm Kulthum and her son from Umar died on the same day, during the days when Muawiyah was the ruler. And the governor of Medina recited the namaz, and Hassan and Hussein were behind, in the janazah of their own sister. And remember that we know that she was there in Karbala when Yazid was in power. And so when we look at all this, we come to realize all these contradictions put together shows that there were different people trying to fabricate stories in order to water down the dispute and disagreement which existed between Ahlul-Bayt on one side and the Khulafa on the other side. And this is unfortunately done at the expense of the honor and dignity of Kulthum bint Ali wa Fatima salawatullah alayhim. This is the worst kind of zulm that can happen to a person, when the image of a person is put down in this way. If you look at it from the Sunni Hadith point of view, there is a strong view where they say if something has not been mentioned in Sahihain, Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, it's not to be acceptable. Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim don't have even a single mention of the marriage of Kulthum to Umar. Not only Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, all other 4 books of the Sihah Sitta, they don't have any mention that Kulthum bint Ali and Fatima was married to the second Khalifa. And the narrations that I summarized here for you, the scholars have gone into the sanad, the chain of narrators and the reporters, and none of them is based on a sanad which would be authentic and reliable. These are all people who are of questionable character, whose statement could not be taken at face value, and many of them were known to be among those who hated Ali and the family of Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Among the Shia scholars, let me just mention 2 names. That Fadl ibn Shahwan, a very early scholar who lived during the days of the 8th and 9th Imam. Probably he even lived till the days of the 11th Imam, I think, early days of the 11th Imam. He is the first scholar, at least the recorded statement of a Shia alim, refuting this issue that this is a fabrication. And so this is an alim who lived during the days of the Ma'sumin, during the early days. And then, if you look at the early days of Ghaibat Kubra, you have Sheikh Mufid, a prominent muhaddis, theologian, and a historian of our faith. He also strongly rejects this story, and he says this is total fabrication. There is no truth in this at all. And this is what I would like to come to, how the historians or narrators attached to the establishment, to the governments, play with the similarity in names. We have actually narrations from some historians. None of them are Shia. Balaburi in Ansab al-Ashraf, Ibn Abdul Bar in Al-Isti'ab, and even Tabari in his history. Actually talks about a proposal sent by Umar to a lady, a young lady by the name of Umme Kulthum. The name is similar, but the father is not same. There was a child born to one of the wives of the first Khalifa after his death, and she was known as Umm Kulthum. And Balaburi and others say that Umar actually proposed marriage to her through her half-sister Aisha. And when she got the proposal from the Khalifa for her sister, she actually agreed. Now what happened after that is not our concern, but what we see here is those people who were, using every opportunity to try to downgrade the dispute between Ali Muhammad and the Khulafa. They found one way, that if they give daughters to one another and they are married to one another, there shouldn't be a problem there. It's the Shias who are making these things up. And so they basically took the whole story of the proposal made by Umar for Kulthum bint Abi Bakr, changed it gradually to the proposal of Umar to Kulthum bint Ali wa Fatima. And this is where we see that, confusion comes on, and when it is the lie is repeated again and again and again. Later generations don't know about it until you go and really, look at the literature in a vast manner. That's where we'll be able to connect, the dots together, and then you see this is where they exploited this issue and linked that with Umme Kulthum bint Ali wa Fatima salawatullah alayha. Salawat. This is about Umme Kulthum herself. Some of them, another example, they actually have tried to put Umme Kulthum and Zainab against one another. Just think about it. That they basically, what they are saying that things didn't work out very well for them. A time comes where Abdullah ibn Ja'far, according to the narration, divorces his wife Zainab bint Ali. And after that divorce, he marries Umm Kulthum bint Ali. We know that in Islam you can have 4 wives. That's an option, not a recommendation. Don't take it that way. But you can't have 2 sisters at the same time. If Bibi Zainab had passed away and then Abdullah marries Umm Kulthum, there wouldn't be a problem. But the way the whole story has been put is that Abdullah bin Ja'far divorces Zainab bint Ali. And then he marries her sister Umm Kulthum bint Ali. And just think about the image which comes in the mind of a reader who doesn't know the history and the background of that family. It's not only putting a negative light on one person. It shows that, Zainab was not able to maintain good relationship with her husband. Or it shows maybe the problem was on the husband, he was not a good person. Where it ends up in not being able to maintain this relationship and they end up in divorce. And then it shows that there was even a problem between the sisters, because after that divorce, the sister is marrying the former brother-in-law. And so all 3 of them, their image goes down. And it's not only that, the implication goes further. You are talking about the first family of Islam. You are talking about Ali and Fatima. You are talking about their children. If Ali and Fatima were not able to raise their children in a way that their life ends up in this way, what would we say about others? And so it's even putting a negative light on the upbringing of Amir al-Mu'mineen. It's not only Zainab and Umm Kulthum who are raised by Ali, even Abdullah bin Ja'far. He was very young when Amir al-Mu'mineen married Asma bint Umays, the mother of Abdullah bin Ja'far. And so he was also raised in the house and under the training of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And so this whole issue, the whole family is now being painted in a very negative image. And this is where we have to realize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders the Prophet to say, Inni tarikun fikum as-saqalain. I am leaving 2 sources of guidance for you. One is the Quran and the other is the Ahlul-Bayt. And they are trying to put that down by bringing this issue of even a conflict between the family, between Zainab on one side and Umm Kulthum on the other side. Salawat. Umm Kulthum and Zainab didn't have any problems. They were together. They are from the same family, from same parents. The way Imam Hussain alayhi salam remembers her, if you remember the wordings of the last al-wida of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when he comes to the khayma, doesn't go inside. He wanted to say Khuda Hafiz to the Ahl Haram. But he singles out 4 names and he calls them. Starting with his daughters. Ya Sakina, Ya Fatima. Sakina bint al-Husayn and Fatima bint al-Husayn. And then he says, Ya Zainab, وَيَا أُمَّ كُلْثُومَ عَلَيْكُنَّ مِنِّي السَّلَامُ. On you be my last salam. There were other sisters, other daughters of Ali, not from Fatima, who were there in Karbala. But Hussein only addressed two sisters who were from Fatima. And this is where we see that he doesn't separate Umm Kulthum from Zainab or Zainab from Umm Kulthum. Salawat. Umm Kulthum suffered with her sister and brother in Karbala, in Kufa, in Sham. She is known for her very powerful statement, a very short sentence she uttered. And she is there alive in Karbala, whereas the other earlier narrations were saying that she died in Medina during the days of Muawiyah. You know, when the caravan comes into Kufa, when she saw the women crying, she says, "Mah ya Ahl al-Kufa." You know, be silent, you people of Kufa. Your men kill our men, and then your women cry and weep on us. Wait for the day of judgment where Allah will judge between us and you. And this really made the entire, audience who were there who could hear her. Everyone started even crying even louder. In the Darbar of Ibn Ziyad, she's the one who gave the khutbah there. She suffered with Zainab and the other Ahl Haram along the journey to Sham, in Sham, and when they come back to Medina, the famous Marsiya that we have in history. It was Kulthum, not Zainab. When the Ahl Haram go to the grave of the Prophet, addressing the Prophet, it is Kulthum, where she recites extempore, a Marsiya, addressing her own grandfather. Madinatu Jaddina la taqbalina. Oh, the Medina of my grandfather, don't accept us. Because when we left you, we were a full family with men and youths in our family. But now we have come back. Bil-ahzani wal-hasarat. We have come back with sorrow and grief and sadness. And so she is there, an important part of Ahlul-Bayt. She left her mark in our history. Unfortunately, the historians and the narrators even tried to bring their name down in order to basically put the image of Ali and Ali down. But they don't know that they are the one who helped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by helping His cause. And when they help Allah, Allah helps them. You know, the world has done everything that they could against them, but the image, the honor, the dignity of Ali and Fatima, Hassan and Hussein, and Zainab and Kulthum still is maintained at a higher level. Salawat. Zainab, the name, Zainu Ab or Zinatu Ab, the beauty of the father. She was not only a beauty for her father, she was the beauty for her family. Her name became beauty for our faith and for our Islam and for our Shiaism. And the mark that she has left is so powerful that nur that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to her, nobody can, put it off. If you look at the language that we have, the word Yazid has become like an abuse. Whereas the name of Zainab is still one of the honorable names in the Muslim world. I normally mention this, and I would like to conclude the English part with a statement that look at the shrine of Zainab. One is there in Egypt, one is there in Sham. There are some who believe that, her grave is in Medina. But the amazing thing is that both shrines in Egypt as well as Sham, although the majority of historians believe that the one which is in Sham is the grave and the shrine of Zainab bint Ali, and the one in Egypt is of one of the descendants of Ali, who was also known as Zainab bint Ali, and there are 3-4 names, 3-4 generations before it reaches to Ali bin Abi Talib. But if you look at the importance, the shrine in Egypt is a Sunni country. And these days, even after the downfall of Mubarak, they are so much afraid of Shias that recently even Al-Azhar came forward strongly to close down the first Husseiniya built in Cairo recently. They said, we don't want. You can have Shias here, but we cannot have a Husseiniya of the Shias here. They're so much afraid of that, name of Ali and Fatima and Zainab. But that shrine of Zainab in Syria is totally visited by the Sunnis. They go there to the extent that, one of the novelists of Egypt describes, how the women of Cairo are so backward that whenever their children have eye ailment, instead of going to the doctor, they go to the Sayyida Zainab. Of course, we also say dawa and dua, not just dua. But the power of that shrine shows in that narration that even though she is not Zainab bint Ali wa Fatima, she is one of the descendants of Ali and Fatima, but the name of Zainab has its own power and magic in it. That even those who are not from the Shia branch of Islam also are devoted to that shrine, which has the name of Zainab on it. Salawat. زینب زینت ہیں نہ صرف اپنے بابا کے لیے بلکہ دین اسلام کے لیے، مذہب تشیع کے لیے، حسین کے لیے اور حسین کے مقصد کے لیے۔ ایک شاعر نے بہت ہی اچھا کہا ہے کہ یا زائر قبل العقیل قف وقل من السلام علی عقیلۃ ہاشم، کہ اے زائر جو شام کی طرف جا رہے ہو، جب وہاں پہنچنا تو ہماری طرف سے بھی زینب کے اس مرقد پہ سلام بھیجنا، اور یہ کہنا کہ آپ کی یہ زری جو دمشق میں ہے یہ وہ ہے کہ جہاں دنیا سے لوگ آتے ہیں۔ هذا هو الحق الذي يعلو ولا يعلى عليه بزعم كل مخاصم، اور یہ حقیقت ہے کہ لوگ آپ کے ذریعے کی طرف پوری دنیا سے لوگ آتے ہیں، اور یہ وہ بلند مقام ہے جو خدا نے آپ کو دیا ہے، جو کسی بھی مخالف کے دبانے سے یہ منزلت دب نہیں سکتی ہے۔ سل عن یزید این اصبح قبرہ، وہ شخص کہتا ہے زائر سے کہ وہاں پہنچنا تو پوچھنا کہ اے یزید تمہاری قبر کہاں ہے؟ تم نے تو حسین کو قتل کر دیا، حسین کے خاندان کو قتل کر دیا، ان کے گھر والوں کو اسیر و قیدی بنایا، لیکن تمہارے کیپٹل میں روزہ اگر ہے تو زینب بنت علی کا ہے، تمہارا نہیں ہے۔ کوئی وہاں نہیں جاتا ہے زیارت کے لیے، کوئی وہاں نہیں جاتا ہے جو نوحہ پڑھے اور ماتمداری وہاں پہ کرے۔ اور اسی لیے جب ہم لوگ اس حقیقت کو دیکھتے ہیں تو فاطمہ کی یہ بیٹی صرف فاطمہ کی بیٹی نہیں ہے، خداوند عالم نے وہ جو خاص توجہ کی ہے اپنے اس بندی کی طرف، علم وہ ملا ہے کہ ہمارے معصوم امام کہتے ہیں انت عالمۃ غیر معلمہ، صاحب علم ہے لیکن آپ کا کوئی استاد نہیں ہے، خدا نے عطا کی ہے۔ تقوی اور پرہیزگاری کی اس منزلت کو دیکھیں۔ یہ جو لوگ جناب زینب کے زندگی میں نقص پیدا کرنا چاہتے ہیں، کہ نعوذ باللہ ان کے تعلقات شوہر سے اچھے نہیں تھے، ان کے تقوی و پرہیزگاری کو دیکھیں، مدینہ میں اپنے شوہر کے ساتھ رہتی تھی، لیکن جب وقت آیا، امام وقت نے جب کہا کہ مجھے نصرت و مدد چاہیے، تو زینب اپنے آرام کی زندگی کو چھوڑتی ہیں۔ یاد رہے کہ عبداللہ بن جعفر صاحب حیثیت تھے، بہت ہی سخی مانے جاتے تھے اس زمانے کے عرب میں، لیکن اب سب اپنے دنیا کے آرام کو چھوڑ کے حسین کے ساتھ جاتی ہیں، قربانی دیتی ہیں۔ ام المصائب اس لیے کہا جاتا ہے کہ جتنے مصائب ممکن ہیں دنیا میں وہ زینب سے پڑے ہیں۔ گھر کا چھوڑنا زینب نے چھوڑا ہے، آرام کو چھوڑنا زینب نے چھوڑا ہے، نا امنی میں وقت گزارنا، انسیکیورٹی میں۔ عاشور کے اس ماحول کو ذہن میں رکھیں اور یہ بتائیے کہ اس سے زیادہ نا امن کوئی اور وقت ہو سکتا ہے؟ اور پھر جو سورہ بقرہ کی جو آیت ہے مصیبتوں کے بارے میں، مال کا لوٹنا، زینب کے چادر سے زیادہ قیمتی مال زینب کے پاس نہیں تھا، فاطمہ کی بیٹی کی چادر کو لوٹا جاتا ہے، مال اور اثاثہ لوٹا جاتا ہے، جان کی اذیت کی بات ہوتی ہے، صبر کرتی ہیں، اولاد کی قربانی کی بات ہوتی ہے، اولاد کی قربانی بھی دیتی ہیں، اور وہ وقت بھی آتا ہے۔ لیکن اس تمام مصائب میں زینب نے کبھی بھی خداوند عالم کے ذکر کو بھولا نہیں۔ اس زینب کے بارے میں ہم کیا کہہ سکتے ہیں کہ جب معصوم بھائی آخری الوداع کے لیے آتا ہے، اہل حرم سے رخصت ہونے کے بعد، جناب امام زین العابدین سے رخصت ہونے کے بعد، آخری گفتگو حسین کی زینب سے ہوتی ہے، یا اختہ لا تنسانی فی صلاۃ اللیل، اے بہن مجھے نماز شب میں مت بھولنا۔ حسین جیسا امام جو سیدہ شباب اہل الجنہ ہے، وہ زینب سے درخواست کرے کہ بہن مجھے نماز شب میں مت بھولنا۔ عزاداران حسین، یہ مرتبہ ہے زینب کا کہ امام زین العابدین فرماتے ہیں کہ دوسرے ایام اور شبوں کو چھوڑو، شب 11 جسے ہم شام غریبہ کہتے ہیں، اس رات بھی امام زین العابدین کی گواہی ہے کہ زینب نے نہ صرف اپنی واجب نماز بلکہ نماز شب کو بھی نہیں چھوڑا تھا، راستے میں بھی اس نماز کو ادا کرتی رہی۔ لیکن ایک منزل آتی ہے، خود چوتھے امام راوی ہے، فرماتے ہیں کہ میں نے پھوپھی کو اس سفر میں بھی نماز شب کھڑے ہو کے پڑھتے ہوئے دیکھا تھا، لیکن ایک منزل آتی ہے جہاں زینب نماز شب بھی بیٹھ کے پڑھتی ہے۔ میں نے پھوپھی سے پوچھا، پھوپھی جان آپ بیٹھ کے کیوں پڑھ رہی ہے؟ فرماتی ہے بیٹا روٹی اتنا کم ملتی ہے کہ اپنے حصے کو بچوں میں ہم تقسیم کر دیتے ہیں، اب پھوپھی میں اتنی طاقت نہیں کہ نافلہ شب جو ہے کھڑی ہو کر پڑھ سکے۔ الا لعنۃ اللہ علی القوم الظالمین سیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون۔ خداوند اس قلیل بعد قبول فرما، ہمارے گناہوں کو بخش دے، ہمارے توفیقات میں اضافہ فرما، امام کے ظہور میں تعجل فرما۔ ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع